Good morning, everybody. I thought I'd hop on here and welcome you to your mini-mester for English 1101. I am your instructor, Mr. Patrick Wilson. And for the next 2 months, give or take about 8 weeks, we're going to go through a 15-week course in basically 8 weeks. So I hope everybody is prepared to basically do about 2 weeks worth of work in the one each week. I will show you how that's going to be broken down in your Blackboard as modulars. We will talk about really the first 2 weeks, which will be basically March 5th through March 15th, and what, the quiz and your first essay is basically going to be due during that week. So hopefully your advisor or whoever signed you up for this course did let you know it's a fast-paced course. Meaning there's going to be probably at least 1 to 2 items due each week. And we will have to sort of work through spring break as much as we can just to get everything covered that we need to get covered. So it can be done. Folks have done it in the past. You just have to keep up with what is due. Check your email, check your announcements, check the Blackboard page regularly, because we're not going to have time to, delay due dates. In my syllabus, I can show you where you can read the syllabus. I can't accept late work. We just don't have time for that. So you're going to have to submit stuff on time by or before the actual deadline. The deadlines are, again, in your syllabus. They're on Blackboard. They're on your Blackboard calendar. They're easy to find. I can show you where you can find those. But we're going to have to, hit the ground running starting, Thursday, which if you're watching this video tomorrow, today is Wednesday. So really, when I say tomorrow, we're going to have to start it tomorrow because that's officially when our mini-mester begins. So let me switch gears here, and I'm going to share my screen so we can kind of talk about what the semester is going to look like. And a lot of this, because it is an online course, it's going to be up to you to read the material and, ask the questions, that type deal. Email me. I do have some in-person tutoring hours. We can do something via Teams. This is basically what I'm using to record this. We can set up something throughout the week for Teams. Generally, the way our schedule works at the college is Monday through Thursday. So basically, the college is closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday and Saturday and Sunday are basically my days off as well. So I will respond to emails. I will respond if you send me a draft of an essay or something over the weekend or something of that nature. But just keep in mind, it could be a 24 to 48 hours before I can do that. If you send it during the week, Monday through Thursday, chances are you can get it back within about a 24-hour period. That goes with messages as well. I'm generally at the Camden campus from 7:30 in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening, Monday through Thursday. I do have other online courses that are full term that I'm dealing with, and I also have several in-person classes at Camden campus that I have to teach as well. So again, if you do email me during the week, expect to get something back usually within that day or so, depending on what time it is. If you email me over the weekend, chances are it could be a day to 2 days before you may get a reply, but you will get a reply. So if you look at a particular screen over here, I just sort of labeled out how each modular, the dates, some assignments. There's other assignments, obviously. I just use these as pinpoints. But when we start on Thursday, March 5th, which again is tomorrow, you're basically going to have about 10 days or so which is going to last up until Sunday, the 15th of March. That basically covers weeks 1 and 2, give or take, just because we kind of start on a really crazy day, like a Thursday. This is the last day of our work week here. I don't know why they didn't start, on the Monday, but whatever the case may be. Modular 2 will start on the 16th of March, and that will go all the way to the 26th of March, which again is a little extra more days there. By one, I guess, gives you about 11 days. That would basically cover weeks 3 and 4. The midterm, we will talk a little bit about that as it gets closer. You're going to have to download the Respondus browser, lockdown browser app to your particular device. You're pretty much going to have to download that early on because most of your quizzes, except maybe for quiz 1, you're going to have to use that lockdown browser for. So I will say, before you take maybe the second quiz, to go ahead and get that lockdown browser downloaded to your proper device. It won't work on a smartphone or any type of cell phone, and it won't work on an iPad. So you need to download it to a laptop or a desktop. And again, I can show you where you can find that, all that information, that you can watch the videos and read the information about that in your Blackboard course. Modular 3, which basically covers weeks 5 through 6, including spring break, will be about 18 days, and that'll be from March 27th until April 13th. And then our final modular, which covers weeks 7 through 8, which would be basically about 23 days, give or take, will start on April 14th and go to May 6th. May 6th is the final day. So if you look, we have Essay 4, which would be the research paper. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that as it gets closer to the spring break time. That'll be due on April 30th, which is a Thursday, by 11:59 p.m. And then your sort of your final quiz or final exam, however you want to call it, will be due by 11:59 on Monday, May 4th. And again, we're going to talk through this a little bit. But that's basically how our setup is going to be for the month of March and the month of April. Now, if you log into your Blackboard page, you're going to realize there's going to be a lot of stuff here. If you start where it says Welcome Stingrays, click here to start, hit the downward arrow. You're going to find some information. The syllabus is going to be right here. I'm not going to go through all of this because I'm going to give you, you're going to have your time to read this. You want to read it thoroughly and as much as you can, because your first quiz is going to be the syllabus quiz. And it's going to go over what you do in this particular syllabus, or what you learn in this particular syllabus. So let me see. Hopefully everything is set up on this one. And it looks like it is. Some things may have to change, but we will see. Yeah, we're going to have to change a little bit here because it's a different setup for the course. So bear with me, and I can go ahead and make that change as we go through this. Let's see. Because we're basically going to be an online course. And even though it says Waycross, that's what they just have to mention on the course schedule online. But again, I'm based in Camden, and it's online. And I thought this stuff was going to be transferable over before, but I guess it didn't. So pretty much everything else, I may have to go in and kind of tweak up when some things are due on this particular aspect of it. But let me see. I think everything else is good. I will talk about the OER textbook. It's a free textbook. Since you are 100% online, this is this distance education information about Respondus, lockdown browser monitor. You need to read through this. You need to click on these links. I will show you some additional information as well. Um, Pretty much every, and I'm gonna have to go back through this, I guess, but pretty much every quiz except for the first one is going to be a lockdown browser event. So you would need to um, make sure that you have that lockdown browser downloaded, like I said, before taking the second quiz, which that will be, I believe, after March 15th or so. And you would need it for the midterm essay. So I tweak up that a little bit. This right here is pretty much, this looks correct as it relates to my office hours and my tutoring hours. This is my office phone number. You can call and leave a message again if I don't answer, either because I live in Brunswick. So either I'm traveling back home if it's after 6, if it's before 7:30, I'm traveling to get to the office. If it's throughout the day, I could have a class throughout the day. I do have classes Monday through Thursday throughout the day. I'll also have a lunch break in there. So, I mean, you can always leave a message, leave a number, leave your name, let me know what course you're in, that type deal, and I can get back with you that way. Otherwise, I would probably go with email since I'm going to check that often and throughout the day. That would probably be the easiest way to get in touch with me, especially over the weekends as well. Uh, just keep in mind it needs to be a capital P, capital W, Wilson at coastalpines.edu. If you lowercase the first 2 letters, chances are I will never see your email. So make sure that you uppercase the 2 first letters. This goes over the learning income or learning outcomes of the course, what you should be able to do really well, at least that's the hope, after leaving in May 6th, right? Classroom procedures, a lot of this is not going to matter so much to you because you're pretty much an online course. The attendance, um, evaluation, this is probably something you want to look at. This is sort of the grade breakdown. We go by a 10-point increment. It's 90 to 100 for an A, an 80 to an 89 for a B, a 70 to 79 for a C, and a 60 to 69 for a D, and a 0 to 59 for an F. Most folks need to stay a C or higher to be able to get credit and move on to, let's say, the next course. Because a lot of times it's like college algebra or that math class. You need math, you need the first English as prerequisite for other classes. But as I like to say, if there's any point where you're not passing or if you got to withdraw, we offer this class yearly. We offer it in 8-week increments. We offer it in 15-week increments. We offer it both, in person and online, and as a hybrid. So if you don't think the 8-week course is going to be for you, you can always come back in the summer. You can come in the fall, next spring. More than likely, though, before you graduate any college, whether you're going to be transferring out or whatever the case may be, you're going to need to have at least a C or higher in English 1101 and the college algebra to be able to get any type of degree. So just keep that in mind. The grade breakdown, we basically have 4 major essays. As you can tell here, the page length and the word count and the percentage goes up with each essay. So the first paper that is going to be due by March 15th is going to be that descriptive narrative. It's 12% of your grade. The rhetorical analysis, which is going to be due around the 26th of March, is 13%. Your midterm essay, which is going to be due by April 5th, I believe, that's 15%. And then that final research paper that's going to be due on I believe it's the 30th, 26th or 30th of April. We have to double check that again. It's 20% of your grade. So the essay grade's a big chunk. It's 60% of your overall grade. So you need to turn in your essays on time, and you need to do really well on those to really be able to pass this class and be successful. Because you can make hundreds on all this other stuff, which we're going to talk about these, these other assignments, which are 40%, research paper components, proposal, annotated bibs, 20%, quizzes, peer reviews are 10%, active participations, 10%. Probably not going to have a lot with the peer reviews just because of time. You will have quizzes. The participation is turning your stuff in on time. So, I mean, you can make 100 on all that and still fail this class if you're not doing well on your essays. So make sure that you are doing well on your essays. There's online free tutoring, tutor.com. I can show you where you can find that here momentarily. You can send me drafts before they're due. Obviously, I would send drafts. If you're going to send them to me, send them as Microsoft Word attachments. There's a certain way you have to format your essay, MLA 9 format. So make sure that make sure you're not losing points for the easy stuff like the formatting. Make sure that you're double spacing. Make sure that you're using time New Roman 12. The spell and grammar check. I mean, a lot of folks, you'd be surprised how many people just don't use the spell and grammar check and they lose 20 points for something as simple as, hey, the computer's telling me to put the comma there. Well, then you should put the comma there. But they don't. So, and that's why they lose their points. This talks a little bit more about academic cheating. You can go through that, academic falsification, plagiarism, using AI, all that kind of stuff. If you get caught cheating, plagiarizing, using AI on anything in this class, the first offense is going to be a 0. If you're foolish enough to do it a second time, you're just going to get an F in the class, no matter what your grade is at that point. And then we're going to go to Waycross, and we're going to go before a board of president, vice president, and we're going to look at all your classes to see what your grade is, see if it's really high, see if you're cheating using AI. And at the end of that meeting, they're going to determine whether they're going to suspend you for a semester, a year, or for good. And that stuff stays on your transcript. So don't be foolish enough and do it 2 times in a row. I will tell you this, zeros really will hurt your grade in this class. Each 0 that you make will drop you down at least 2 letter grades or 20 points. If you make 2 zeros, you're basically at a 60 is the highest you could possibly make. That's if you get 100 on everything else. If you make 3 zeros, you're basically at a 40. And there's probably no chance that you're going to be able to bring that up to even a 70. For each 0 you make, you need to make at least 5 100s to just pull it up to a 70. We don't have, let's say that you make 4 zeros. Basically, you're at a negative number. We don't go at a negative number, but we stop at 0. You're basically at a 0 at that point. But you would need, we can do the math, if you need 5 assignments, and you made 4 zeros, 5 times 4, you would need to make 20 100s on 20 assignments, and we don't have 20 assignments. The way our class is basically set up, you're going to have 5 quizzes, 4 essays, and then you're going to have 2 assignments that sort of go with the essays. So if we do the math there, I think that's about 11 assignments. So you can see the dilemma you would be in. I would say if you get 2 zeros, within the first 2 or 3 weeks, you probably need to go ahead and withdraw because you're not going to do really well in the class. If you're the highest you can make at that point is a 60, that's still a D. And chances are that's not going to count toward, credit, as it relates to a prerequisite. So most places would have you take this class over again anyway. So keep that in mind as we move forward here. Copyright notices, campus police services, all this stuff. You want to read through all of this because, again, you will have, and again, this is sort of set up as it would be a 15-week course when it looks here, weeks 1 through 3. Just kind of keep in mind, ours is going to be a little bit condensed because we only have 8 weeks. So the information is good. It's just a week is going to be sort of off by 1, right? Minus by 1. And this kind of tells you, again, this is when everything is due. And chances are these dates won't change. just because we don't have enough time to change things. So you want to keep up to date with this particular checklist because that's going to tell you when everything is due and what type of assignment it is. All right, so going back here again, you can click on here. This will tell you the weight categories and percentages, which we just looked at in the syllabus. Navigating Blackboard. I don't know if this is your first time with a Blackboard course, but if you click here, you can find helpful information and videos that you might want to go through before you really get started in the particular course. That will kind of help you. There's some student help with Blackboard. If you want to click here, it'll drop down a couple, LibGuides, some videos. You might want to click on that to see, if you need additional help. This is the Respondus lockdown browser information. You want to click on that and you want to go through this information because you're going to have to download the actual lockdown browser to your particular device. So if you're using Chromebook, you want to download it to the Chromebook. So you'd want to read this information, how to do that. If you're using just Windows, you want to read the information here about that. If you're just using Mac, you want to read the information here about that. You also have, Respondus information here. If you need help, you click on that. There's some information here. We made a LibGuide about lockdown browser you can look at. But you want to read and watch these videos in here as it relates to the lockdown browser. The thing is, if you do a mix and match, let's say you're using a Mac computer, but you're downloading the program for Chrome on your Mac, it's not going to work. Same thing if you're using Windows and you download the Mac for Windows, it's not going to work. You got to pick the correct device. Because otherwise what happens is when you get in there to try to take your quiz or do that Respondus midterm essay, it's going to prompt a password. And anytime Respondus prompts a password on you, it means that you downloaded something or did something wrong on your end. Because if you did it right, because the password is already built in, meaning the program has selected some sort of a password, if you downloaded it and did everything right on your end, it's going to bypass that password and take you right to that particular quiz or assignment. So emailing me and asking me for a password that I never created is a waste of time on your end and my end because I don't know what their password is. I didn't create it. My deal with the Respondus simply is I upload the test and I can, download and grade. I don't have any control over issues with their program. So that's why you would have to contact Respondus IT to figure out what's going on. I don't have, issues or I can't resolve your Blackboard problems. That's why you might need to check and make sure your password is working and reset it and all your updates on your computer are, going through and doing what needs to be done on your end. Because I'm not IT, so I can't solve your computer problems and I can't solve your Blackboard problems. So that's the other thing. If you lock yourself out, it's not going to reset itself. You're going to have to go to the library or you're going to have to call somebody in IT or email somebody to help you get that password resetted or figure out what's going on with your particular computer as it relates to the Blackboard issues. Because emailing me about Blackboard is not going to change the fact that you have grades still that need to come in, right? You got assignments that need to come in. So make sure that you resolve that information, those issues before it gets too late. If you go to where it says textbook tutoring and student service success resources, this is where you're going to find your OER, which is basically our free virtual textbook. If you click here, as you go through your modulars, you're going to see page numbers reference. This is where you're going to find those page numbers, but you're going to go by the number right here in the PDF, not the number that is shown on top of the document. I think as we scroll through, you see how it says 1 here, but if you look up here, it says page 5. So when I give you a page number, like you see here, I'm always going by the page number that's up here, not right on the top of the document. So kind of keep that in mind. And as long as you can get internet you can access this textbook pretty much anywhere. There's also some information about the MLA 9 handbook. This is going to be more helpful when it comes to the research aspect of the course, research paper. But this kind of tells you also about plagiarism, about how to quote, about how to set up your paper. Your papers always should look like this, right? With the header, your first name, last name, my name, the course number, the date, your last name and page number in each one of the top right-hand corners, and also the title of your particular paper. Don't just call it paper one or essay one. Give it a creative, catchy title. And then you begin your essay by, making sure everything's in Times New Roman 12, that you're double spacing everything, that you indent paragraphs, so on and so forth. But you would probably want to go through this as time goes on because, again, it's going to be helpful when we get into essay 2 and essay 4. This is another checklist of due dates. I don't think yeah, I think it's working. Okay. This looks like this is the correct one. So you can always go here to see what to do. As you can tell, we got our first quiz, which is going to be your syllabus quiz, is going to be due on Monday the 9th. So we're going to start on the 5th, and that's going to give you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, basically 5 days to get that first assignment in. And then essay 1 is going to be due March 15th, which is basically about 6 days from the 9th. So make sure that you keep up with your due dates because it's going to be a fast-paced 8-week course. We also have tutoring services, right? If you click here, we got tutoring. It talks about some scheduling and that type deal. You can do in-person tutoring, or again, you can email me if you want to do something virtual. We can kind of get something set up. We have student success skills with Success Coach and library services here. The Successful Stingray resource guide to help you succeed in your courses. Kind of click on that. This is tutor.com. If you click on there, it's going to take you to that particular website. You can upload your rough drafts and have the tutor here kind of look at them. That might be helpful before submitting the final draft for me to grade. You're just going to have to go through. It's going to look different on your end and click on the information that you would need just so they know what you're trying to accomplish in your particular draft. And they will usually, now it used to be you could upload and kind of they would read your paper and they would send you something back in about 5 or 6 hours. I think now they really want you to meet with somebody live. So instead of having that wait period, you're probably going to meet with somebody if you have time right then. The problem is, I think they're selective with their time. So if you got something really, really lengthy, or if you don't have, concise questions you want to ask, they may run out of time and they may say, hey, they may only get, let's say you have 4 or 5 pages, they may only get to page 3 if you don't have anything specific you want them to look at. It's not because they just want to quit on you. It's just they may only have 30 minutes, 40-minute increments. So you might want to be a little bit more concise. Make sure you give them the instructions, that type of stuff, so they're not having to kind of guess of what you need to do. And I believe you have 10 free hours of tutor.com, meaning you can use it, for other classes as well, math, history, whatever the case may be. But just keep in mind, once you exhaust those 10 hours, they will probably want to try to charge you to use their services. And I don't think their services are really that cheap. So I would kind of limit, like I would probably maybe use it for essay 2 and the research paper, definitely. Depending on how well you can write a descriptive narrative. I mean, again, if you don't think you're going to utilize all your time, if you're not taking a whole lot of classes, you might be able to get away with using it for each essay, except for the midterm essay, because you're going to have to do that one in one setting in 60 minutes. So, but check this stuff out. There's some information, librarian help and librarian live chat. That's going to be helpful maybe when we get into essay 2, but definitely for essay 4, because you're going to need to use a good bit of research to help you with that. Now, if you look, This is how your courses are going to be sort of layered, 4 modulars. I'm probably going to close just so it doesn't overwhelm because when you hear that, hey, you only got 2 months to do a course and you see all the stuff all at once, sometimes that overwhelms a lot of students. So what I'm probably going to do is hide these upcoming modulars, and as it gets closer, maybe a week, maybe a couple of days before the next one, I will go ahead and open it up. So if you feel confident about moving ahead, you can. Otherwise, what happens is if I let everything else open, some folks are going to understand what they need to do, and then I'm going to have students that are going to keep going on and on and on, not realizing, hey, they don't really know what they're doing. So they keep submitting assignments in and keep screwing them up, which means their grade keeps getting lower. And now they want to try to go back, and we just don't have time for that. Just because we only have 8 weeks. So modular one will probably be open until the 16th of March. And then I'm gonna, obviously I'm gonna open up modular two. So if you click on modular one, this basically tells you a brief description. And again, you can look in your syllabus for it, but this is a brief description of what you're going to be doing from March 5 until March 15th. If you click here, it says readings, e-textbook, handouts, videos. If you click on that, this is going to give you everything that you need to sort of hyperlinks to. It's either going to take you to a web page if you want to read the web page version, or you can go back to that e-text and read these page numbers in the e-text. But this is what you need to sort of finish before March 15th as it relates to the reading. This talks about the format of your essays. Please look at this. This is how your essays in this class need to be styled. If you don't style your essays like this, you will be losing really easy points. It's going to be a difference between an A and a B for some, and a C and D, or a D and F for others. Because again, this is really easy stuff. Nobody should be getting points taken off for format. But you'd be surprised how many people fail papers in this class because they don't follow instructions and they don't look and read this particular information right here. Um, Everything else, you definitely want to pay attention to the narration and description aspect here because that's what's going to be what your first writing assignment is going to be about. It's going to be a descriptive narrative. Obviously, you want to pay attention to writing thesis statements, introduction to writing. All this stuff is really good. As you can tell, it's not really long reading. There's going to be exercises. If you look in your book or if you look on the online version of this, there's going to be exercises. You don't have to do those unless you just want to for your own personal practice. The problem with the exercises is they don't give you answers. So if you needed, answers to something in particular, you can always email me and tell me what you're trying to do or what you did, and I can try to give you those answers. Otherwise, I mean, I don't have the luxury or the time to take up all these exercises. So you're just going to have to kind of do the reading, ask the questions if you have any questions, and, move on. The grammar and syntax aspect, you want to pay close attention to part one, part two, part three, because quiz two is going to cover a lot of that when it deals with fragments, comma splices, run-ons, and appositives. So you definitely want to look at that. Maybe practice some of the exercises. I would say if you practice anything in the book or did any kind of exercises in the book, it would be the grammar stuff because that seems to be when it comes to quizzes where folks have a good bit of struggling. They struggle with that because if you're not correcting or knowing how to correct a comma splice, run on, or fragment, chances are you're going to make the same mistake in essay one, which is going to drop that grade down too. So you want to make sure that you're practicing the grammar because if it's been, if you just got out of high school and you've been used to writing a good bit, then you're probably going to be above most of the folks in the course. But if you've been out of school 5, 10 years and you haven't really wrote a lot of stuff or did a lot of stuff with grammar, you're going to want to have to do a little bit of refresher because the grammar is going to come back. And that's the other thing. If it's not format, it's not spelling, it's the grammar that gets a lot of folks. And it's not because your ideas are not there. It's just that so awkward and convoluted because you don't know how to correct a dangling modifier, or you don't know how to fix a fragment or a run-on, or you have multiple subject, verb, pronoun, antecedent problems. So the grammar will also, drop your grade really fast, especially if you're not using spell check and grammar check. Use Grammarly. Um, at least use Grammarly for the grammar aspect part of it. I know Grammarly's got a lot of stuff dealing with AI, but you can shut a lot of that stuff off and just use the grammar and spell check. It's a little bit better sometimes than the Microsoft Word spell check. I would probably use both because what Grammarly may not catch, maybe Microsoft Word would, and vice versa. So definitely read through these and be finished reading these by the 15th of March. This is where you're going to find the syllabus quiz. You just click on it and go through it. Again, the first quiz, you don't need the lockdown browser, but starting with quiz 2 and until the remaining of the semester, you will need lockdown browser to be able to complete quizzes and to be able to complete the midterm and final exam as well. And that particular quiz, again, like I said, is going to be due by the 9th, which is Monday, by 11:59. So at midnight, once it hits that, if there's nothing completed, this is gonna sort of shut down and disappear. And if you don't turn stuff in or nothing's uploaded, it's gonna automatically give you a 0. And getting a 0, the first assignment in, is really not a good way to start the semester, because by the time we hit Monday, we're basically week 2. So, I mean, we have a really short week 1, basically Thursday to Sunday, and then Monday to next Sunday is going to be basically week 2. So kind of keep that in mind. Essay 1 information. This is going to be due by 11:59, Sunday, March 15th. If you click here, this is the drop box. It tells you it tells you what you need to do information-wise. You need to upload your work as a Microsoft Word file. I don't need a PDF. Now, you can upload, if you do upload it as a PDF, you're probably going to lose some points because you didn't follow instructions. I can read it. I can't mark it up like I can a Word document. So the only thing I can really do with the PDF, if you don't care about the feedback or the comments, which most people do if they don't score really high, they want that feedback and comments so they're not making the same mistakes in Essay 2 or Essay 3. Then you need to upload it as a Microsoft Word file. If it comes as a PDF, the only thing I do is read it and give it a grade, and I'm moving on. If I can't download it, if I can't read it, it's getting a 0. I wouldn't copy and paste, right? Because again, I say Microsoft Word. It's not a copy and paste into a text box. It's not a PDF. It's not a PowerPoint. It's Microsoft Word document. So please follow instructions. Otherwise, you're going to lose points for not following instructions. You can find the information for Essay 1 right here. This basically tells you what you need to do over the next 10 days, right? Needs to be MLA 9 format. Again, go back into the modular and read about the MLA 9 format and how to style that. Double space, Times New Roman, size 12 font. This particular essay needs to be 3 to 4 pages in length, or 750 to 1,000 words, whatever comes first. And it says, this is what you're doing. Select a particular topic, a major happening, a special place to you, a meaningful object, or a cultural activity in your area. After you have decided on an area of focus, however, the next step is to write a story that captures what it was like for you in that reality. You should include vivid descriptions that engage all 5 senses. Storytelling methods should help people imagine themselves being there with you and explain why this is so important as you go along. So I give you some suggestive topics, right? You only want to choose one, right? It says you may write about any meaningful moment, but the following 5 topics are powerful for the descriptive narrative essay. So number 1, a moment in nature that brought you unexpected peace. Number 2, place from your childhood that still lives in your senses. 3, a moment when you realized you were growing up. 4, an object you have kept for years and the story it carries. 5, a cultural or community event that shaped how you see belonging. And then I give you some notes or some directions about how to get started, right? Brainstorming. You can kind of go through those to see if any of that kind of relates to your topic. Choose a focus, write with a purpose, right? Tips for success: show, don't just tell. Use imagery and detail to paint a picture. Use all 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Stay focused. Avoid trying to describe too much. Zoom in on one moment or scene. Revise thoughtfully. Your first draft is just the beginning. Uh, the peer review, right? Peer feedback and revision to sharpen your language and structure. That's where you can either email me a draft of your rough draft, or you can upload a rough draft to tutor.com and see if they can help you, or you can use both of us. I will say this: since the final draft and when I'm going to ultimately grade is going to be due on Sunday, March 15th, the last day I can see a rough draft will be before 6 p.m. on March 12th, which is next Thursday. So I would say, really by next Thursday, you should already have one draft, if not 2 drafts already completed. Because 3 days after that, it's going to be the final draft's going to be due. But the last time I can look at a rough draft will be by 6 on Thursday, March 12th. So that's how, again, this is going to be a fast-paced course. If you're not used to taking a 2-month course, then you might want to, I hate to sort of discourage you. But if you don't think you're going to be able to do it, you might want to think about withdrawing it and seeing if you can take it at a different time when you don't feel like you're so overwhelmed, because 8 weeks, they go pretty quick, especially when you add spring break in there. By the time we come back from spring break, we're only going to have 3 weeks left. So kind of keep that in mind. The thing about summer classes though, it's only 9 weeks. So you're adding only 1 more week if you take it in the summer. So I would suggest that if you're trying to get in and get out, graduate on time, to go ahead and take the class, in the 8-week structure, do the best you can. Know that I'm here to help, but you got to reach out. You can't wait until after I graded, 4 or 5 assignments and you're at a 45 to get help, because chances are by the time we're 4 or 5 assignments in, we're going on spring break or we're coming back from spring break, and there's just not enough assignments to pull that 45 up to at least a 70. Now, I will round up at the end, right? If you got a 69.7, I'd round that up to a 70. You'd have a 70 in the class. If you had a 89.4, I'd have to round that down to 89, so you'd have a high B in the class. So I will round up as it gets toward the end. As it gets closer to May, I will drop one of your lowest quiz grades. So if you don't do really well on, one of the 4 or 5 quizzes, I will drop one of those. I can't drop a major essay because, again, they're 60% of your grade. I will try to offer at least, 1, 2, maybe 3 chances of extra credit as we get closer to spring break, or, at least in the month of April. So I would take advantage of the extra credit. It's optional. You don't have to do it. But I will say those that do send me rough drafts regularly, that use tutor.com and that did the extra credit, generally got the highest grades in the class. So those were the ones with the A's and the B's and that type stuff. Is it easy? Is this class? Really, this class, I usually started at, medium level. I don't make it too easy. I don't make it too difficult. Problem is, if you're not prepared, you don't study, you don't turn stuff in, then obviously every week's going to be difficult for you because you're procrastinating, you're not doing what you need to do. If you are asking the questions, or if you're coming to virtual or in-person tutoring, if you're using tutor.com, if you're submitting stuff and following instructions and stuff on time and all that, then the class is probably going to be fairly easy. Um, it's going to be, structured medium level, meaning it's probably easy to get a C. It's a little bit more difficult to get B's and A's because you got to work for the B's and A's. It's a lot easier to get D's and F's if you just don't do anything. So kind of keep that in mind. I like to call myself an easy B, but a hard A. Right. That's not to say folks don't get A's in my class. I do have a handful that get A's, get B's, get C's, also get D's and F's. You just don't want to be that student that has to come back and take the class again because you made a D and an F, because there's ways to at least get a C or higher out of here if you just put forth the effort and go through the motions. Otherwise, I hope you have a great first 10 days of the mini-mester. I will probably be back as it gets closer to the 15th of March and have a modular 2 video. But just kind of let me know, email me if there's anything else I can do to, make the experience a little bit better. Hopefully you are not necessarily full, first time students here, that you've taken some classes from us before, but if not, we welcome the first timers too. And again, we will go through and work out the best way we can to make this semester, a little easier to get you kind of into things. This could also be an eye opener for those that think they can really handle online classes, but realize after the first week or two here, man, online courses are not for me. I need to have an in-person course. That could be a possibility too. And because there's a lot of times people say, oh, I can take it online. It's going to be easier. A lot of times the online courses are not really easier. It's not like you're doing more work. It's just there's more stuff you got to keep up with. Just because you're not having to go to class 1 or twice a week, you still have to keep up with due dates. You still have to go through and read the material. You're kind of having to teach yourself the material too. So I can see where, taking math online would be difficult for some folks. Sometimes taking English or history or, psychology online is kind of difficult because you don't have that one-on-one interaction you would have for an hour or 75 minutes if you're in front of an instructor sort of engaging you. But other people can thrive in this environment. They're able to do really well and get stuff done and turn in on time. So hopefully that's most of the folks here, because it looks like I have about 23, 25 students. So it's a good bit of students in this class. Usually, though, because it is the nature of the online environment, by the time we get to April 1st, 5 or 6 of them may withdrawal by then, or sometimes I see folks, we go on the spring break and about 15 only come back and start doing anything. The other 10 have disappeared and they don't withdraw. So what happens is each week something is due, they get a 0, and before May 1st they're at a 0 in the class, or at a 12 in the class, or a 25 in the class, and that's their grade. That's what stays on their transcript. So hopefully don't be that person. And again, I look forward to working with everybody, and until as it gets closer, really week 2 for our semester, that'll probably be the next time I will pop up with another video. But I hope you have a great weekend and a great week 2 coming up. Thanks.